Good evening. Welcome to Taproom Live, a virtual happy hour. Celebrate a little bit of American Craft Beer Week, a little bit WI Beer Wednesday. Joining me tonight, I am Dan Higgins. I'm Food Drink Reporter, USA Day Network in Wisconsin, and hosting along with me, Kathy Flannigan, Beer and Entertainment Reporter, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and we're joined by the creator or the man behind the WI Beer Wednesday virtual sharing, kind of brought in our ringer on how to do this virtually. Jason Korneisel, and he's down there at Irv's Mug there. So welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time on a day to join us, talk a little beer. We'll kind of go through some various topics, but I think the most important thing probably to start with is are either you tilting back any beer this evening as we get into this conversation?
I'm drinking the New Barons Beer Cooperative Hot by Ziggy IPA. I don't know. I'm just obsessed with it currently.
What do you like about that one?
I'm currently at my restaurant right now, so what we can do to go howlers and growlers, I can't drink here. But I do have a growler here, and I have some Eagle Park 2 Blow Honey in it, IPA that I will be drinking as soon as we get done with it.
All right, sounds good. I decided I went ahead and let's see. Here we go. Went with the Johnny Blood Red here. I can't figure this out backwards, but from Titletown Brewing was kind of one of the first craft beers I ever, true craft beers I ever really had. I think before that, I think about the only thing that wasn't domestic beer that I was drinking was probably like a Hackershore, the Weiss beer. It was probably the first beer I think I ever had that was out of that. What were some of the craft beers that got you guys into drinking craft beer that you first kind of fell in love with?
You can go ahead, Jason.
I think one of my first ones to, kind of get away of the Miller Lite and the High Lifes and stuff like that, which, when I was 21, even then I was like, man, this really isn't all that great. I mean, it's Pilsner, but a lot of lakefront beers, some of their ambers and their dark stuff is like, okay, great. Cool, we can make beer that has more flavor to it. So some lakefront stuff and Titletown's another one too that I was a big fan of when I first started discovering there's other stuff out there besides just the domestic stuff.
All right. Kathy,
that works for me as well.
Yeah,
that works for me as well. I mean, I was drinking like a lot of Beck's Dark for a while, and I thought I liked those, and then it was an easy shift into craft after that.
Yeah, and I suppose at the time too, I mean, there wasn't quite the explosion. I mean, Green Bay area where I was, it was Titletown and Hinterland, and that was pretty much it. And it was pretty much that way for a long time. Milwaukee, I think at Lakefront was one of the first breweries on the scene.
The first was Sprecher, then Lakefront, Water Street Brewery, Lakefront, and then Milwaukee Brewing.
Okay. And do you think, have your taste evolved quite a bit since those first ones that you guys had? I mean,
it's been amazing how much the craft beer market just boomed. And especially a few years ago where it was just on fire. Like, people couldn't wait for new beers to come out. And not only the growth of breweries, but the creativity in some of the new styles that came out and adding things to the styles that people would have never imagined putting those combinations into a beer 5 or 10 years ago. And today, you look at a beer menu and there's all kinds of ingredients and weird combinations, and it's kind of fun to see some of the things that people have been able to come up with.
That's really true. I mean, it's like there are no limits, except, and it will get, I know you want to get into this at some point, but I now see those same breweries that started out with all these different ingredients now really mastering lagers, which is exciting in its own way.
That's supposed to be one of the hardest beers to make too. So
yeah, I was going to talk about the Lakefront. So there's one of your early, and they got their Lakefront lager that's out there all the time. It seems like everybody's got one of those, some sort of lager or lager type beer.
There's a virtual Lagerfest May 30th, but they did one last year, and the same company, Gathering Place is one of the people that organized it, a brewery here, and they brought in brewers from all over the country to, and people were sampling lagers, and I didn't think there were that many people. There were mostly a lot of people my age. But I feel like in the last year, the whole idea of lagers have become much more. I just think that there's a whole new group of people discovering them.
Well, I wonder too.
Heavy for such a long time that I can see where there would be people wanting to just get back to the same basic lager and not have everything be so hop dominated or barrel aged stout dominated.
Right. And I suppose after a certain amount of time, you've got that ability to go into this. Whereas when you're first trying to make your name, lagers were everything. So you wanted to be anything but a lager. And now we've had enough time with all these other beers, I suppose. Now it's okay to be in there and have the lagers and not worry about it being the people not being able to identify or think that you're different than, bigger domestic lagers.
That, and you can't hide a mistake in a lager.
Yeah, that's true. And Kathy, you did bring up the online lager beer festival.
Yeah,
how are they going to try and do this? Yeah.
They're going to do panels. So you would go to Gathering Place and you would get the beer that you would some of it that you would have had there. Now I of course can't remember how much it cost, but you can go to Lager and Friends. I think lagerandfriends.com. I've written about it, and they're going to do panel discussions. There are 3 of them. I think I'm leading one, but people who've already bought tickets can either get a refund or they can go pick up a bundle that has specialty things in it to pay for their time and expense. And we're going to see. I don't know, but anything can be done virtually. I'm learning, except maybe surgery.
Yeah,
I don't know, but they have a good spirit about it. I think it's a way to get all the coast to coast brewers involved. So good on them.
And Jason, you were when we talk about this whole virtual thing. I mean, you were kind of a couple of years ahead of this whole idea of trying to get together. You started up a hashtag and the Twitter account WI Beer Wednesday. Tell me how long ago, what made you do it? What do you like about doing this every Wednesday to kind of spotlight some of the craft beers that people are enjoying?
Well, I started the handle at Wisconsin Beer Wednesday, but the hashtag was actually created by Scott Manning. Scott is the head brewmaster at Vintage. And this was his idea. It was about 3 or 4 years ago. And the idea was pretty simple. It was just to celebrate and promote Wisconsin craft beer. So, whatever Wisconsin beer you're drinking, take a picture of it, put it on the Twitter, Instagram, and hit the hashtag. And he asked Wisco Ferg is his Twitter name to kind of help him promote it too. So he just started, retweeting and liking everyone who, posted a picture and hit the hashtag. And I kind of saw it. And I'm a bartender at Herb's Mug, and I had a stamp made. I don't know if you can see it on there, but it says $1 off craft beer, Wisconsin Beer Wednesday.
Okay.
And here's our beer menu. And they're all stamped Wisconsin Beer Wednesday. And I would hit it on Twitter. We have 32 beers on tap, and on any given week, 15 to 20 of them will be from Wisconsin. So every week I take all the breweries that we have Wisconsin beers from, and it's been great. When we started this a few years ago, there might have been a dozen, 20 people, and then after a while, it was like 50 people every Wednesday who were checking in and using the hashtag, and now it's like 75, 80, maybe even closer to 100, and it'll be trending on the left-hand side of your Twitter page. Like Wisconsin Beer Wednesday will show up, and there's people who had never heard of it before, and they're like, what the hell is this? We have our own day to celebrate drinking beer in Wisconsin. How did I not know about this? And especially in the last month, since, you know, we've all been forced home, the traffic on and the volume on is just, it's gone up, and a lot more people are participating, and it's pretty exciting.
What are some of the, do you see, what are kind of, without like doing a whole spreadsheet, but what are the beers that you see most often popping up week after week? Are there certain beers that keep coming up every week, or?
Well, like I said, we have our 32 beers on tap, and they all rotate. None of them stay the same. So once a keg goes on, it's on for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it's on to something else. So
I meant on the hashtag with the pictures people are sharing. Are you seeing certain ones come up pretty regularly, or?
There's so many of them. I mean, how many breweries are there in Wisconsin? We probably have 100 of them, right?
More.
So,
200.
More now?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Kathy's,
Eagle Park's popular, Central Waters is popular, but you know, there's just so many of them. And
all right. So yeah, that's it seems like that's one of the ways that the breweries have had to adapt, is kind of going to this finding virtual ways to do that. There's been other ways to try and adapt. Include. Well, I was going to jump to curbside, but we'll back up here. Let's talk a little bit about Craft Beer Week. I suppose this is the week if there's ever a week to share.
Can I say one more thing about sharing beer? One thing I'm going to miss, because it's ended now, is that idea that you're drinking a beer and you want somebody else to try it. You want them to enjoy what you're having, so you just hand them your glass.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, pandemic.
Yeah, that'll be nice when we can finally kind of get back to. I don't know if we ever will. Actually, that's kind of an interesting thing. We'll see how willing people are going to be to do that post-pandemic. That's for sure. So it's Craft Beer Week, American Craft Beer Week. A few of the cities around here sometimes do some craft beer weeks. It would have been Green Bay would have had their kind of unofficial. It's pretty low key. You know, they'll have some events. The one thing they did do is the brewers up there usually get together this time every year, do a collaboration brew. That they were able to get that out this year. I talked with Nick Calloway at Anapee Brewery about it. It's a stout that they use like 150 pounds of crumbled up cookies in the fermenter to come up with this kind of, I guess it'd be a pastry stout then technically, but instead of going, usually like everything else, it would mostly go on tap. It went mostly into bottles. He said though it's really sold well. A couple of the breweries that were selling it sold out, first day. He kind of theorized a little bit that there isn't as much new stuff coming out right now, and that might have been that beer drinkers are still thirsty for kind of what's new, but it's not. That might be not only total volumes down, but maybe our options for new beers is down too.
I would guess some of that is true. I mean, breweries had to get rid of what was in their fermenters and their bright tanks and things that they'd planned to sell to, bars like Herb's Mug or, the ones around the stadium or at Miller Park, at least in this area. So I'm sure that it's been slow. They're being slow to create new beers right now, I think.
And just even finding shelf space too. I would think that if you're selling in the grocery store, you want the core stuff. Probably this isn't the time to be. You want to make sure you're stocked with what people are used to or know, or flagship beers.
The feedback that I've heard from my beer representatives is their retail sales, in the stores has been fantastic. Well, yeah, they're losing all of their tap sales because all of the taverns are closed. People still want their damn beer, so the grocery stores and the liquor stores they've been doing just fine.
Don't you feel like it was sort of like toilet paper at first? People stocked up a lot and then they went, oh wait, this is going to go on and I can still go to the store. So then they sort of slowed down slightly, but then they got bored and they stocked up again.
Yeah, well, At least we have our beer to get us through this.
Get through a little bit. I know in a couple of breweries too. Like I said, usually this time of year there'd be like different events going on, whatever. It might be some special pin tappings, but a couple of the breweries got involved with doing that all together beer. There were a few down in Milwaukee. I know up in Green Bay, Noble Roots Brewing. Up there you go. Kathy's got it right there. Noble Roots in Badger State up in Green Bay area. We're doing it. Three Sheeps on Sheboygan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. All right.
Yeah.
So even in the middle,
did it here, Third Space. Yeah. 1840 has theirs coming out this weekend. Yeah. It's been a good thing for them.
Yeah. So it's just, kind of goes back to the whole craft beer thing. It's like even in the pandemic when a lot of these breweries are facing, the same business decisions that a lot of other people, they're still thinking brewing beer with proceeds that go to helping out people in the restaurant industry. So another big change, I think, has been kind of this curbside, the drive-throughs, all that. Obviously, that's been one way for breweries to kind of stay on top of things. I know, Kathy, you talked about they've done a couple of drive-throughs now, and it seems to where they get started in Milwaukee. I know Appleton did one recently. Green Bay has one scheduled for this Saturday.
Yeah, there's one this Saturday too.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I mean, I essentially, if Irv's is filling growlers, they're doing that as well. It's the way to get your beer out. But the drive-throughs, all the breweries got together. They used to have a name that I can't remember, but I think it's Drink Brew City. And they all got together to start the first drive-through with like 8 breweries. And it was a huge success. So they did it. They've done it 3 times now. The one this weekend is going to benefit SOS Save Our Spots, which are restaurants that an attorney started this program to get some money for restaurants so they don't go out of business. And that's what this one will be for. But I think it's smart. I mean, people like the idea of, it's almost like communing in a tap room, only you're in your car. And I know a lot of breweries like Eagle Park and Lakefront, and I'm going to miss a few, Third Space and others do also have essentially their curb services essentially drive through as well. So it's a way to sell the beer that you couldn't sell otherwise. And I think that might be here to stay in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
how's
I think
that?
So once we are allowed to open, I would imagine that a majority of our business is still going to be carry out. There'll be a limitation on capacity that we can have. Maybe it's only 25%, maybe it's only 50%. People are still going to have to be distanced and stuff. But our Friday nights curbside have been very busy. I mean, we get people call, order up their fish fry, look at our beer list, we get their growler howler poured for them and run it out to their car. And even after we're allowed to open, I foresee it being that way for a while until we get further into this.
Yeah. It's a little bit surprising that to this point in Wisconsin, we didn't already have beer drive-throughs, but here we are now. We've got them now, I guess. So
I know there was a big push from brewers to get delivery, but that can't happen. So
yeah, that is kind of interesting where wineries do have that option, at least for some direct to sales, and where the breweries don't have that necessarily as an option. But it seems like there's been a pretty good support for in all across the state. Small town breweries have had report. You see the cars lined up to get their curbside pickup and everything. So it's certainly seems like there's been as much as beer fans can supporting the breweries.
It feels like they have. The one thing to be cautious of that I always am is that cars, if those breweries were full of people, you just see a lot of cars, and each car is probably one person or 2 people. So it looks packed, and it is, but cars take up a lot more room than people. So it looks really impressive from a distance.
Yeah. I suppose it's how long is that line there? Like, is it a continual or is it just for 5 minutes, or is it an entire afternoon of cars continually rotating through?
Yeah.
Do you think at all that through this that the 3-tier system would get looked at again, or no? Or do you think that's just so in place that that's just not going anywhere in terms of how we regulate alcohol sales and that?
It sounds like there are going to will be bigger issues than that in the beginning, trying to get breweries back on their feet, trying to get, restaurants to even out. I think it's going to be a while if they do go back at it, but I think that this will play into any argument they have in favor of it.
Yeah. With the opening, we kind of touched on this a little bit. Opening soon, today actually actually just before we came on, I saw the breaking news that the court did overrule Evers, but even without that, we were on our way towards the end of the month of getting back to opening. What do you see it looking like after things are open, or is it still kind of an unknown depending on what they decide, what kind of restrictions they put in place?
I talked to a few. I talked to Mark Garthwaite with the Wisconsin Brewers Guild, and I talked to a few brewery owners about what they plan to do. And it's all an unknown, and I'm not even sure what today's ruling means. I mean, can people open right now? I don't think Taprooms were on that list open right now, but do you take some chairs away from the bar? Do you not let children in anymore? I mean, Taprooms have always been that place that tells the brewery story. And so will there not be tours? How do you get 12 people back with the equipment and keep them 6 feet apart? That couch that always makes a brewery look homey, that's got to go. The board games that will make you stay longer. Those long German-inspired picnic tables. I don't know. I mean, I think they're all wondering what to do, how to do it, and counting on people to be responsible about how they act when they come in there as well.
Yeah, I think our perspective here is going to be just to be patient and see how things play out. What the rules are and what today's ruling mean. I mean, we're going to have to see what that really means down the road, and we're just going to be patient and follow the guidelines and try to make sure that we keep this a safe environment for people to go to. And yeah, we don't have any chairs in the bar right now, and our dining room is going to be all spread out. And like I was saying earlier, yeah, I would imagine still a lot of restaurant business is still going to be carry out, just to avoid as much as people would like to get back to the bars. Still probably going to be a while before we open it all back up.
Yeah, and I think too, it's hard to tell what is the traffic going to be like. I mean, by now I think everybody saw that viral poster about how many people were at that Red Lobster for Mother's Day. So I don't know. Are we going to see just this big rush of people coming in, or is it that it's going to have to be controlled? I mean, I suppose that plays into things too.
Yeah. There's a drive-in here that was so busy and so jammed. The drive-in closed themselves down because it's the kind where you bring the tray to the window, and they closed themselves down because people didn't stay in their car and they didn't social distance, and it was responsible of the Kilty to close itself down.
Sure.
It's just it's both sides. It's going to be the owners and the people who run the bars and the breweries, and it's also going to be the people who go. I mean, I'm talking this week. I started talking to the people who run beer gardens. That's going to be a free for all.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah. Especially when you see with talk about how do you have games, professional leagues, completely shut down, and then trying to restart without possibly even having fans. I mean, it's pretty serious when they're willing to go to those lengths of not have fans in the stands.
And if you have a beer garden where people are used to, just wandering around and how do you get them to sit far apart from each other at a picnic table? How do you get them to, bring their own glasses? Maybe that's an answer. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and you just see all the festivals just saying we're not going to, throughout the summer. Now you're starting. It's every couple of weeks. It's another month out of all of a sudden everything in July is starting to any sort of festivals in July are starting to cancel out and all that too. So could be, well, when Germany decided to cancel Oktoberfest, I think that should have given everybody an idea of how serious this was.
Yeah, that was a sad one.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to kind of wait and see what happens. I thank you guys for tonight. I don't think we got any questions. So apparently either we answered them all or everybody just wants to get to enjoying some beer, maybe taking some photos, post it up on Instagram, Twitter, give it the hashtag WI Beer Wednesday. You can do that every Wednesday. Otherwise, you want to keep up on your beer news. Kat, you can follow at Kathy Flannigan or me at Twitter, Instagram. Also, it's also a good time to, if you want to keep us out there reporting on this, get a subscription. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. That helps us.
Please.
Same business, be able to report and let you know what's going on. So anyway, cheers, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight and taking a little time out.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Dan. Nice to meet you, Jason.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Thanks.